The very fast pace of introducing the next generation of phones, almost a year from the moment of the predecessor saw the light of day, has become a trend that has no intention of stopping. Along with the Galaxy A51 that came to our review, we also reviewed A71, a slightly larger model in Samsung mid-range lineup. Last year, A50 arrived a month before A70, but now both model successors are here at the same time and competing for the spotlight. Following the same visual identity that the A series brings in 2020, the A71 has a different look compared to the last year's model, while the differences between it and A51 hides mostly under the hood. However, it's not exactly the same on outside either. The Galaxy A71 retains the same dimensions as its predecessor, incorporating a better, newer chipset, more powerful camera, and more modern design. When we say modern design, we mean the same style applied to the A51. The one difference apart from the dimensions is the intersection of the elements at the rear. This time there are 3 of them, which makes the rear pattern particularly interesting looking at the light hits at different angles. Compared to the A51, the bigger brother swaps the 10nm Exynos 9611 for a faster 8nm Snapdragon 730 chipset, but it also has a 64MP main camera, a slightly larger screen, as well as a 25W charger, which should not be overlooked. From the design standpoint, the A71 doesn't deviate from what we've seen on A51. A polycarbonate so-called plastic case with a specific rear pattern, all nicely fitted with a large screen and minimal bezels that are about the same size on all 4 sides. The front camera is also fitted into a small opening in the top middle of the screen, like what we've seen on the Note 10, with a discrete cutout for the speaker, along with the top edge. It seems that Samsung is completely satisfied with this position of the selfie camera and now nourishes the same principle on all of its new models. While the spacious 6.7-inch screen remains the same as on the A70, it is by no means a bad thing. A resolution of 2400 x 1080 pixels provides a density of 393 pixels per inch, and Samsung calls this panel Super AMOLED Plus, which should mean that there are some enhancements which are probably only noticeable by a direct comparison of the A70 and A71. The screen is protected by Gorilla Glass 3, which we have been seeing since 2013. Even though it's a bit outdated, apparently Samsung still considers it good enough for the mid-range segment. All other elements are arranged identically to the previous model: USB-C, 3.5mm audio jack, and a mono speaker grill on the bottom, along with a primary microphone, while at the top side there is a secondary microphone for stereo audio recording, the power button, and the sound rocker on the right, and on the left there is a slot for 2 nano SIMs and 1 micro SD card. As with A51, the camera system is placed in a separate housing, which is slightly raised compared to the rest of the back surface, so it is the first thing to touch the surface when you put your phone down. If you do not want to scratch the body of the camera, we do recommend you get a case that will level the back and prevent any damage to the camera system. A71 is very similar to the Galaxy A51, and the biggest difference are with the chipset, camera, and a slightly larger battery with a fast charge option. Instead of a 10nm Exynos 9611 chipset of more modest capabilities, the A71 features a generally better, faster, and more efficient Snapdragon 730, made in the 8nm production process. The 8 cores of the Snapdragon 730 are distributed in 2+6 variants, 2 times the 2GHz Cryo 470 Gold and 6 1.7GHz Cryo 470 Silver cores. The graphics are handled by the Adreno 618 GPU, while the system has 6GB of working memory and 128GB of storage. When it comes to the cameras, the system consists of a 64MP main camera with an aperture of f1.8 and focal length of 26mm, which makes this lens a wide-angle one. Focusing, as with A51, is done by dual-pixel phase detection, while the main camera is accompanied by a 12MP wide-angle sensor of 12mm and f2.2, 5MP macro lens with 25mm and f2.4, and 5MP depth sensor, which provides a better frame depth perception and better bokeh effect. The front camera is the same as on A51, which means that you can still count on 12MP stills upscaled from 8MP, which are provided by a pixel binning on a 32MP quad Bayer sensor. The performance of the wide-angle and macro sensors are very similar to the one of A51 because they are actually the same sensors, while the main sensor is slightly different. The number of megapixels is increased and so is the quality of photos. The amount of detail is much higher and images are sharper with better dynamic range than you get on A51 with its 48 megapixel sensor. The colors are more accurate and vibrant, and the overall impression is that the photos are more true to what we are taking a picture of. Also, comparing ultra-wide shots allow us to see better post-processing used on the A71, which is not so aggressive, so these stills work better in daylight. However, A71 can also handle the lack of good light quite nicely. Of course, you should not be expecting some unreal photos, but as long as you're using the primary lens, you'll be happy with the results. Darker parts of the scene retain details, but there will be noise as well. If you want sharp images in the dark, you need to have a steady hand, since the lack of stabilization always makes shots more challenging in these type of conditions. In a direct comparison to the A51, we would say that A71 comes out victorious, but that is something most of us would expect. The A71 is not that far ahead of A51, but the difference in quality is noticeable, especially in terms of detail and dynamic range. The combination of better sensors and software processing provides better overall results. The same goes also for video capabilities. Shooting 4K video with an A71 does not support image stabilization, but there is a quality improvement. Video is more faithful with more realistic colors, while the A51 tends to overexpose frames when conditions are not ideal. With the A71, there is no noticeable flicker due to a change in light intensity, and details are plentiful. With a steady hand, the A71 will be the perfect companion for making quality video content, as long as you don't need to shoot or move when lack of stabilization starts to be quite noticeable. Like the A51, the selfie camera has 32 megapixels and quad-Bayer technology. Selfies are good when you have enough light at your disposal with true color reproduction and decent good dynamic range. The rest of the phone hardware didn't change much compared to A51, so there's an identical AC Wi-Fi, Bluetooth 5.0, GPS, NFC, FM radio, but the battery is 4500 mAh with a 25-watt fast charger compared to the A51, which has a 4000 mAh battery and a 15-watt charger. The situation is quite similar with the OS as well. The A71 comes with a fresh Android 10 OS with a second generation One UI, while the interface is identical to that of A51. With Galaxy A51 and A71 models, Samsung introduced perhaps small but noticeable upgrades to its mid-range devices for 2020. While the advancements are not groundbreaking, the new visual identity, improved chipset, and better camera are good enough reason to consider the A71 when choosing your new phone. Last year, we would hardly recommend an extra charge for the A70 over the A50, but now perhaps we do prefer the A71 over the A51. With a price tag of $450 US, the A71 is already competing with hardware-wise much stronger competition. It won't be easy for the A51 to replicate last year's success, and the A71 has an even harder task, since for the money you can buy, on paper at least, far more impressive phones. But Samsung certainly knows what they're doing, and has earned users' trust many times over, so there will be certainly plenty of those that will pick the model over others, simply because they believe in what the company can deliver. Thank you for watching Bench House review of Samsung A71. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel and stay tuned for more videos. My name is Marco and I will see you next time.